As for numbers, I can't say how many more will be mobilized in Ukraine. But I can tell you that Russia is going to mobilize another 300,000 people starting from the 1st of June.
Well, that's it. Military recruitment offices are now open 24 hours a day. Men are not allowed to leave the country. The 32nd body of a man who tried to flee the country was found in the Teza River. But there is one thing. It's all happening not in Russia. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ivan Raevsky. Before we start talking about a new possible wave of mobilization in Russia, let's watch this video.
Меня зовут Алексей Резников. Я министр обороны Украины. Накануне Нового года я обращаюсь к гражданам России, которые являются военнообязанными. В первую очередь это касается жителей крупных российских городов. Я точно знаю, что у вас осталась примерно 1 неделя, пока еще есть хоть какой-то выбор. В начале января российские власти закроют границы для мужчин, затем объявят военное положение и начнут очередную волну мобилизации. Границы тоже будут закрыты и в Беларуси. Сегодня вы думаете, чем украсить праздничный стол, и строите свои планы. Но за боем курантов вы можете не услышать стук в дверь.
It shows Alexei Reznikov, Ukraine's defense minister, talking about mobilization in Russia. It's an address to the Russians, but for some reason they attached English subtitles to it. I don't quite understand, it's like it was meant for Twitter reposts in the Western media and not for Russians. It's December, Reznikov warns Russians that they have 1 week left, and as early as January there will be a knock on their door. Similar videos and texts have been published by many Ukrainian, Russian and English language media and opinion makers. Many of you are thinking right now, it's only been 5 months since January, maybe everything will be a little bit later, but this video was published in 2022. And he's talking about January 2023. So it's been almost 1.5 years. Almost 2 years have passed since the first and the only wave of partial mobilization in Russia, and 16 months of them we are told about the upcoming and inevitable new wave of mobilization in Russia. Mobilization will be in January, right after the holidays, while people are resting. No, it will be in February. No, it will be in March. No, May at the most. No, it will be at September on the anniversary of the first wave of mobilization. It's already 16 months. Zelensky recently said again that Russia is planning a new wave of mobilization on June 1st.
Russia is going to mobilize another 300,000 people starting from the 1st of June.
Я точно знаю.
They were yelling that Russia would blame Ukraine for the terrorist attack, and everything would start under this pretense. June 1st, 100% sure, Zelensky said, it's today. Yeah, it took me 8 days to edit this video, but before criticizing, look at this poor guy. The bags under his eyes. He barely sleeps. Better give him $1 for coffee at the link in the description, and maybe the videos will come out on time. As you probably guessed, there is no mobilization. Not in January 2023, like Reznikov said, not in March, not in September, not in the other January, and not today. Meanwhile, mobilization in Ukraine itself didn't stop for a day. All these 2 years we watched this endless stream of video from Ukraine where recruiters arrested young guys, jumped off a bus and pounced on 1 person in 4. All these 2 years, Ukrainian men have been forbidden to leave Ukraine. They have been hiding in trunks, running across the border, sneaking through forests to Moldova, buying masks with a woman face on it. They drowned by swimming across the Teza River, while military officials laughed that the chance of dying on the battlefield was less than drowning. Very funny. And the final accord of all this madness was the new law on mobilization, which Zelensky recently signed. Ukraine military commissions have switched to 24 hours a day schedule. Introduction of electronic summonses, arrest of accounts and driving registrations for draft dodgers, reducing the age of people subject to mobilization from 27 to 25 years, obligation of hospital managers to inform military commissions about patients 18 to 25 years of age. They abolished demobilization after 36 months of service. Previously, after 3 years of service, you had to be demobilized by law in any case. Now you are demobilized only if you are seriously wounded. And the most important and the most frightening is the ban of providing consular services abroad without a military ID. This means that now male Ukrainian refugees will not be able to extend their passports at the embassy until they travel to Ukraine and visit a military recruitment center there. As you can understand, this is a one-way trip. Maybe someone doesn't realize how serious it is, but without a passport, they cannot exist in European and other countries. In order to stay there without a passport, they will have to apply for political asylum. But the problem is that European countries cannot do that. What would it look like? It's one thing if a Russian man is fleeing mobilization, they will praise him there, and although not willingly, they will grant him asylum or something like that. But if millions of Ukrainians in Europe ask for asylum, and if these asylums start to be approved, it will look strange against the background of providing a multi-billion-dollar financial aid to Ukraine. In other words, it will make Ukraine look bad. So, ironically, Russian men in Europe are much better protected from warfare than Ukrainian men. Yeah, I said this before on my channel, it's hard for a Russian to get into Europe if he wants to escape, but if he gets there, he is unlikely to be deported, and he can feel a little bit safe. As it's not hard to guess, the reaction of Ukrainian men abroad was not long in coming. They all rushed to embassies to extend their passports, but the law came into force immediately, and their services were denied. I was struck by the reaction of the Ukrainians themselves to these crowds of frustrated men facing early deportation. Yes, all those who were refugees in Europe were not happy, but those who were in Ukraine itself were happier than ever. The fact is that these male refugees in Europe were portrayed as the most fierce patriots, you know? Of course, those Ukrainians who were in Ukraine itself were not happy about this. How they in Europe allegedly come to some sport events, for example, somewhere in Berlin, in their Mercedes, sit in the stands, wave Ukrainian flag more than everyone else, support Ukraine in Twitter more than everyone else, but at the same time, they were not going to pick up a rifle themselves. And now they are happy, like those who are in Ukraine, like, oh, now you can show your patriotism in action when you get deported here. It may be unexpected for some of you, but I'm totally siding with the Ukrainian refugees on this matter. Yes, indeed, there were those stereotypical Ukrainian patriots who wave the flag the most while hiding in Poland. I don't think it's right to say they're all like that. I didn't like it when something was applied to me as a Russian, and I'm consistent in my views. I don't agree when it's applied to Ukrainians either. They're not all like that. Even more so, I'm sure most refugees didn't do that, and they don't deserve to be treated that way. Even without this portrait of the typical Ukrainian refugee, many people anyway do believe they should return to Ukraine and pick up a rifle to defend their country. Okay, Russians, it's good that you're running from mobilization, you will say, but they should not. You have different positions. But I challenge you to put yourself in the shoes of these future soldiers. Imagine yourself in a situation when you not only have to risk your life on the front lines, but most importantly, you have no idea how long it will last. Your command has set you an absurdly impossible goal of reclaiming the borders of 1991. And every day you're farther from it, not closer. You will not be demobilized even after 3 years. And the only way home is to get a non-fatal but serious injury. Your commanders refused to sign a favorable peace agreement because they were promised everything they need. Everything they need was not given. You see all this as a soldier, the counteroffensive is failing, and they keep telling you about the borders of 1991. If I were them, I'd be hiding in Poland myself. You would be hiding in Poland, and anyone would be hiding in Poland, let's be honest. We have statistics of young people all over the world who are ready to fight in case of war. A brief review of these statistics? Nobody wants it. And how fucking hypocritical it's to hear Zelensky's bullshit about some another wave of mobilization in Russia, like haha, in an ironic tone, when he's got his guys in such a state that they'd rather drown in a river than stay in the country. Let's get back to Russia. Why there are no new waves of mobilization? The answer lies on the surface. Russia managed to staff the troops only with people who themselves sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense. Maybe someone forgot, but Russia still has 4 times more population and dozens of times more money. During these 2 years, you could see ads for contract service at every turn in Russia. You are promised huge salaries, like benefits for you, your kids, your family, and other things. Billboards, ads at the entrance to your house, ads on the back of your bills, ads on radio and TV, ads on the internet. The result is hundreds of thousands of volunteers. And when Elon Musk and the others talked about this years ago, I mean, about the differences in size and money and people, manpower, when such losses could have been avoided, they were called idiots or bought by Kremlin. I wonder how the Kremlin can buy the richest man on earth, but that's another question. The most important point of this video is not like, look, haha, they have mobilization in Ukraine and we don't have it in Russia, we will not have it in Russia. In fact, it's the opposite. The problem that hangs over all of the above is that Russia is precisely capable of carrying out a new wave of mobilization. Yes, there probably won't be any mobilization anytime soon, but if there is, it will not be good for Ukraine. Because purely in theory, the joy of pro-Ukrainian people would be that mobilization in Russia is going on all the time, that people are on the edge, that people are not happy. But in the reality, almost 2 years have passed. People have already cooled down. They were constantly told by Zelensky and the others about a new wave of mobilization, and each time it didn't happen. Each time they got more and more used to the very idea that it could happen. And if it happens now, after all this time, there will be no violent reaction, believe me. A year and a half ago, a potential new wave would have been a disaster. Now there will be no disaster. That's the problem, and I don't see how somebody can be happy about it. And the only consequence of the lies of Zelensky and the others about the large new wave of mobilization in Russia, the only consequence is a couple of hundred Moscow hipsters who on this day are in fear buying tickets to Armenia 10 times more expensive than ever. And even they are not afraid anymore because they're sick of the lies. And the next time they just won't believe it. And just about the mobilization in general in Russia and Ukraine, I have a friend, he's from Ukraine, he's about 20 years old, draft age. I'm from Russia, I'm 26, draft age. It would seem that he and I are in completely different positions with regards to this conflict. I mean, geographical positions. And all the people around the world, those who support Ukraine, those who support Russia, they all equally want us both to be mobilized. Just think how fucking weird that sounds. It's like, you go to fight, ha ha ha. What, don't want to fight? Make your country surrender faster. And you go defend your country. And the other way around. People don't see here any contradiction. Because how do we get both countries to stop the conflict? In theory, we need to make sure they don't have the manpower and money, right? Because at some point they're like, oh, fuck it, enough is enough. What happens in the reality? Let's take the Czech Republic as an example. With one hand, they prohibit Russians from getting asylum. Russians stay in Russia, then they are drafted. With the other hand, they want to deport Ukrainian men to Ukraine. Then they are drafted. You can already give a peace prize for this brilliant idea, but it gets funnier. With one hand, they give Ukraine millions of dollars in aid. With the other hand, at the same time, they are increasing trade relations with Russia. Well, not directly with Russia, actually with one small and not very rich country, Kyrgyzstan. Czech exports to Kyrgyzstan have increased by 2,700% in the last 2 years of sanctions. They are probably getting the famous Kyrgyz oil back. Very clever. No one would ever guess. Bottom line, money for you, Ukraine, money for you, Russia, everything is fair. Manpower for you, take all your young guys. We are for peace, by the way. Bye.